Now that you're starting on your literature review, I wanted to take some time to clarify and kind of explain what is expected for the literature review and give you some tips to get started. The purpose of the literature review is to summarize and synthesize the existing research related to your topic. Remember, we're working on a research paper, so we want to include all of the relevant research that's already out there instead of just giving a narrative of your topic. There are three components to the literature review. The first is an introduction. Don't skip this part. Give me a broad view of the research to a narrow view of the research. What did you find when you searched your topic? The second component is your subtopics, and the third component is a conclusion and a transition. Let's go ahead and look at the introduction. Here's an example of an introduction from your textbook. It's on page 32 if you want to reference the text. You'll notice that the author starts with a short introduction about what the topic is going to be about, and then uses a couple of paraphrases from the literature. The first one synthesizes several articles that they read, and then the second one is more narrow and talks specifically about one article. The next section of your literature review will be your subtopics. So this is going to be like the body of the literature review. You're required to give 3 to 5 subtopics that relate to your subject of choice. Each subtopic should be a separate subheading on your paper. So on the template itself, we listed the word subtopics, but that's not what's going to be in your paper. Instead, you're going to give the subheadings related to each topic. Some examples of subtopics might include student engagement, cooperative learning, student achievement. So then under each of those subheadings, you would give 2 or more paragraphs relating to that subtopic. Within those paragraphs, you're going to paraphrase and quote your resources in each section. And don't forget to use transitional phrases and sentences between your ideas. The final component of your literature review is a short summary and concluding remarks. You don't want to just abruptly stop your literature review and move into the next section. You want to start to transition it a little bit. So be sure that you include a paragraph there to summarize your thinking so far and transition to the next section. So now that you know how your literature review will look in the end, I want to rewind and talk about where you should start. So you've already been looking for resources for your paper. What I want you to do is read and annotate your articles. Highlight anything that pertains to your topic, anything that you think might be important. As you read your articles, go ahead and work on your reference page. Add all of your articles to your reference page as you're drafting, and then that way you don't have to go back and look them up again later. As you're reading, note powerful quotations or sections to use later. You might even print these out or put them in a separate document so that you have them separately. Make sure though, if you're printing them out or putting them in a separate document, that you're including the reference to that section that you're quoting so that you don't get lost later. After you've identified the powerful sections that you want to use for your paper, you are going to start to organize these into themes. Identify common themes in the literature. As you're reading, you might notice that student motivation comes up a lot with regards to your topic. You might notice that student engagement comes up a lot. If that's the case, then I want you to create a new topic and sort those items into your subtopics. Finally, you're going to start to draft your literature review. As you're drafting, you want to include quotes and paraphrases from the literature, but you also want to include some of your own words. You don't want it to just be a list of quotations. You need it to make sense. While you're working on your literature review, I wanted to give you a tool that might be able to help you. As I was working through my dissertation and had to do a literature review, as you can imagine, I compiled a lot of resources and I needed a way to organize what I was reading and my thoughts regarding. So I used this tool called Mendeley. You'll have to sign up for an account, but once you do, you can access your library. So all of these articles are articles that I read for my literature review, and I downloaded them as PDFs and then uploaded them to this library so that they were all together. The most powerful part of Mendeley is that you can have this notebook to help you. So, for example, here is an article I read by Emmer and Hickman, and as I was reading, I highlighted different sections that I thought might be helpful to me in my paper later. You can also include specific annotations. So if you wanted to say, for this article, I might use it for this section, or you can record your thoughts here. The other thing that's really powerful about Mendeley is this search feature. So once all of your references are there and you're working on drafting your paper, you might think, what was that article I read about student engagement? So you can go ahead and search specifically for student engagement, and it will bring up every article that you put into your library regarding student engagement. I hope this tool will be helpful for you as you work on your literature review. Finally, I want to give you a checklist to help you score well on the literature review section of your paper. As you work on your literature review and before you turn it in, think about these questions. Does your literature review have an introductory paragraph or two? Do you have 3 to 5 subtopics or themes? Does each of your subtopics have 2 or more paragraphs? Does each of your subtopics include paraphrases and or quotes from the literature? Does each paraphrase and quote include in-text citations? Is each research article referenced on your reference page? And then finally, have you used a program like Word or Grammarly to double check your paper prior to submission? After you've worked through this checklist and you're ready to submit your paper, submit it to the Blackboard folder.